What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a full mod guide for the Valkyrie, what I reviewed last week on the channel, and this thing is now legit. Let me show you. Talon mag. We're good to go, baby. And it hits much harder now. Let me show you how I did it. All right, you guys. So today we're gonna see what we can do with this Valkyrie Blaster. I mean, I feel like to make it usable for most people that watch my channel and for myself, we need to make this Talon compatible somehow. So that will definitely be an experiment to see if that's really possible. We'll go ahead and take a look at that first. And then we'll get into some basic mods. It should be pretty simple. If you don't need to do this, then don't do it, obviously, because that's gonna be a lot of work. But the O-ring definitely needs to be replaced in the pusher if you want 100% seal and get more consistent shots. So we're going to be doing that. Hopefully I can find a good replacement for that. I have an option here that I think should work, which is some O-rings I got off of Luke for the Unicorn that are supposed to be better seal for the Unicorn when it's stock. That one might fit, and then we'll probably do some sort of spring replacement. This spring looks like it has a little too much pre-compression. It is already bending. I can see it curving up this way, but it's a very light prime, which is nice, but we should be able to get a lot more power out of this with the spring upgrade. But yeah, the main mod is gonna be trying to make this Talon compatible. And really the only major difference that I see is the width of this way. This is just a little longer. The other maybe issue is the feed lips, because there is a feed guide here and this fits over nicely, and these are a tad bit wider than this, so we'll have to see if that is a problem. And if it is, then we might have to modify the feed lip a little bit, but I'm hoping it'll work out okay without having to do that. Obviously, if you are planning on making this Talon compatible and you have Talon magazines, you still are going to have to load your darts in backwards, which will make it not compatible with another blaster most likely that you're using these for. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're using multiple blasters that use angled talons, you will have to either fire all your darts and just reload them for when you use this, or completely unload your magazine and reload them in the opposite direction. And make sure you load them in the right direction for the blaster you're using. Let's go ahead and take a measurement here and see what the difference is between this guy and the Talon. So that looks to be about 45.5 millimeters. Yeah, about 45.5 millimeters. And this one is 47. So it's about 1.5 mils wider. Just to make sure everything else is the same, because it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but it looks like it is pretty close anyways. This is 17, or maybe just a touch under 17. The biggest part looks like it's just a little under 20. This is 17, right around 17, maybe just a touch under, but about 17, I think. And this is just about a touch under 20. So yeah, those look to be pretty much identical. So yeah, I think it's just the width there that's the main difference besides the feed lip. So this feed lip that looks to be just under 10, about 9.5, I would say, I think. And this one is definitely narrower, and that is about 8. So that's the only other issue I could possibly see, but we'll have to figure that out once we can get it to fit up in there. So one step at a time. We're going to go ahead and remove some stuff. We'll go ahead and get the stock out of the way, because we're going to have to get to the back of this to the spring. And I'm going to see how I'm going to get to the pusher to be able to replace that. I mean, it's going to be kind of impossible to do, or very difficult to do without taking this apart. So it shouldn't be that hard to take apart. It looks Like there's a 2mm Allen wrench to get it apart. The spring, I think we just have to remove this back portion here. So we'll do that first. Huh, okay, then it has a little plug here that looks like might be able to turn and come out, maybe? Oh yeah, it turns. There we go. Ah, so there you go. So that holds in the thing, so it just turns and locks it in. Very interesting. And there's our spring. So I think we could use some maybe K25 or something to upgrade that. We'll definitely have to look and see what options we have, but K25, maybe K26 should work there. Maybe even another spring in the arsenal would work. There's probably quite a few options. All right, now I'm going to try to see if I can get in further here. Just go ahead and take things apart. I might end up trying to even dye some of these things, but I'm not sure yet. I mean, it's a little too dark, the dark gray to dye, I think. It's just not going to work out super great. So these are shorter, different thread. These are more coarse threads, I guess you would say. Definitely different screws here. So keep track of what comes out of where. It's always important. There we go, that comes off. Okay, so then this can come out. Very interesting. And then this come off like a Talon. Yeah. Bring the whole trigger assembly out. Interesting. That's really cool. So that's solid, guys. This is why this blaster feels like pretty darn good quality. I was impressed. I was not expecting it to be quite as nice as it is. So that is definitely a nice surprise. I'm hoping that this seems to be lubricated fairly well, and this O-ring I think is okay for now, so we're gonna not mess with that at the moment. I think I might just go ahead and take this off to do it. Is this gonna work for here? Yep, looks like 2mm still. So it has to come out, I think. There we go. Have to pull that up. There we go, and then it comes out. So that looks good. There's your pad there that I was talking about in the review. And now we need a little screwdriver. Hopefully that'll help get this off. Or I could possibly put the O-ring over the top of that. Because I feel like it's a weird O-ring, guys. Just see if it'll work without taking that off. Curious. So yeah, this is a very thick area, so I'm thinking it might work better just to keep that on and then just add another one. I wonder if that's the best option. Now don't even remove this one and just put another one in front, and we'll see. I'm wondering if it's gonna be, or maybe even put two of them on. We'll see. Let's just go ahead and put two of them on, see if that works. So I'm worried that it may be too tight and then pull the O-rings off during use. This is all things you have to, it's kind of trial and error with that. So keep that in mind. Let me take this apart and we'll just see what we got here. See how this does. Okay, that is probably too tight. That's what I'm thinking. That's gonna be too tight. Let's see what one does. I think it would be put it to the back. That's what that would do. Might be all right. Yeah, I think we'll just put one and keep it on the back, and I think that will work. So we're gonna go with that, I think, just from testing there. It's going to be hard to get that O-ring off once you put it all back together. So it does to me look like this is all one piece. So getting to the getting to that and modifying it is going to be very difficult. Haha! I figured it out. The inside comes out of this. So this is a separate piece and this is all connected. Very interesting. All right, well, we're gonna put it back in for now. That is cool. So yeah, that whole part comes out of the middle. All right, so we'll figure that out later if we need to modify that. I'm hoping not. don't over tighten those. Definitely don't want to strip them out. And we'll see if this fits well. I'm hoping it does. I think that's going to be good. There we go. That goes there. And that should be good. Now we just need to replace the spring. And then obviously we're going to have to modify the magwell. But I want to make sure this works first. Actually, we can just put this spring in for testing the seal first, and then we can take this off. It's not hard to do, so I think I'm going to go ahead and secure this just for safety purposes, because I don't want to break those tabs off or anything. They do seem a little weak there, so this is there for definitely added security. Check the seal here. See if this is better. Nearly 100%. Very, very close. I definitely think that's plenty good. I mean, it's losing a little bit, but that is very good. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Definitely not going to affect performance losing that little air. So that should be good, but we're going to go ahead and upgrade the spring and see if we can get up the performance a little bit. All right, so I have a few options here. First off, I do think that it's very close to the exact same size as K26. So this is I'm pretty sure this is a Pro 26 spring from the guys over at Turf from back in the day, but this is exactly the same size. So I think I'm going to start with this one, but I do think, you know, a Silver Fox SF25 spring, which is basically the same as a, you know, the version of this for K26 is K25. It's a little shorter, but I think that'll be okay also, because this seemed to have a little pre-compression to it. So we will test that. I also have a 10 kg spring that may work, but I feel like it may be a little too much. It may not catch, I'm not sure, but we will go ahead and just test with these two first, because I feel like these are pretty standard and easy to come by, either in this form or you can just get K25 and K26 and cut it down to the right length. So we'll try those, but I think both sizes should work. Go ahead and try the K26 first. I can't say I'm a huge fan of this not screwing into any sort of metal. It just screws in to the plastic, which has a tendency to possibly strip out. It is a coarser thread, but it is something you got to worry about. But that definitely adds a lot of strength to that butt plate, so I would definitely recommend putting this on before testing, especially with any of the spring loads, but definitely higher spring load. Just try not to over tighten. I'll go ahead and put some shots over the chronograph with this and just kind of see what we're getting, and then we'll try it with this one, and then we can move on to the mod of the magwell, because if I mess this up somehow, it may not give me good readings, or I may not be able to, you know, test just the simple mod for you guys. So we'll do that first. All right, so I just loaded up 6 of the darts that this came with, and then 6 Worker Gen 3s, because that's my standard dart, and we'll see how it does with the K26 and then the K25. Much harder prime. 219. 217. Double it 217. 217. Very consistent though. 214. 217. Now we're on to the workers. 207. 211. 207. 211. 213. 216. And we're out. So much improved for sure. All right, K25 in now. Same darts, so we'll see how that does. Definitely doesn't have quite, it has a little pre-compression still, but definitely much better looking in there. Prime is definitely easier. So this is good. So hopefully we get similar performance. If it's a little less, it might not be bad because that was shooting just over 200. So if your club's strict on that cap, then a little less would be probably helpful. 204, 201, 200, 199, 199. So much better here, closer to 200 if we're going for that. And I'm losing heads. Duplicate 199. We're on to Worker Gen 3s. 192. 196. 189. 193. 196. 192. And we're out. So a little less performance with the K25, which is to be expected. K26 a little harder, had a little more pre-compression. You could probably get this, you know, similar K25 performance or K26 performance if we cut down that K26, just to give it a little bit less pre-compression. Probably would be useful if you're using K26. But yeah, I think this length is good. But yeah, depending on the performance you're going for, this seems to be perfect for 200 FPS. So that's pretty nice because that's what most of the games I play at go at, so run at, so that's perfect. All right, let's try to modify this magwell. All right, so we definitely upgraded the performance quite a bit with just a spring upgrade and an O-ring. That was very simple. So let's go ahead and do something that may take a little more time in doing and see if we can increase the size of this magwell a little bit so it'll accept talons, because I have these are easy to get, and these are the only blaster this will work in. So I think it'll be a useful thing to do for me, and I think it hopefully will work. So we'll see this. We'll see how this works. All right, so I have some files, and I think that's going to be the only way to do this. I do think I'm going to have to remove the pusher though to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just basically do what I just did earlier, and remove this whole back half. And probably remove everything just to make it easier to work on this. All right, so we got that broken back down. It's a very easy blaster to take apart. This is all one piece. There is that inner piece that I showed earlier, but we're going to keep that together because we want to try to file down the magwell all the same width. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to take this, you know, a file that's obviously smaller than the sides here, and we're going to try to file it down and see if that works for us. I'm sure it'll be a process. I will not show you guys the entire process, but I think this magwell, or this mag, is about 1.5 millimeters wider than the gray, and this is just obviously slightly wider than the mag, so we'll probably take about 1 mil off of each side and see what that does. It's just gonna be like work and then test and work and test till you get until it's smooth. This may be a little wide. I tried to measure it the best I could. Maybe a little wide, but we'll deal with that when we get there. If we have to file that down somewhat, we might be able to do that. I don't think it's going to be too big a deal, hopefully. So let's get to work. All right, you guys. So I think we have a Talon, Angle Talon compatible magwell. There we go. So did take a lot of filing on both sides here, and then I also filed down this edge and this edge just slightly, kind of did a little taper there, and that seemed to help a little bit. And then yeah, it seems to go in there pretty nicely. Got to remember to put it in backwards, but yeah, that's locked in there. That's nice fit, not any wobble at all. That's how I like it. So we should be good to go there. Just a few recommendations. I obviously mainly used this file. This was the right width. I didn't have a flat file that was small enough, and I wasn't going to do the whole thing with a micro file like this. So yeah, this worked out well. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get a file set. This is, man, I don't do too many mods and don't use a file. Like, besides just changing O-rings and lubricating stuff, which I don't even, that's just maintenance in my opinion. But I use my file set all the time. So I just got a new set because my other one was getting a little worn down. And this one does a good job. So definitely recommend looking into getting one of those if you don't have one. But yeah, went back in with this afterwards, kind of getting the sides to make sure, because this kind of would groove it out a little bit. So I just got this. This was kind of like the finishing touch, and then I obviously used it also to do this part right here. So I use my microfiles all the time. They're probably used more than anything. So one thing that I realized a little late, as I did get, it's probably hard to see, but some gouges in there just going to town with this guy. But what I should have done off the bat, and what I did at the end, is I stuck a dart in there, and then it kind of protected it. Probably should have done that sooner. I don't think it's going to hurt anything, but it definitely would look nicer, and you wouldn't hit the edges of your dart guide there. That worked out well. I wish I would have thought about that sooner, but you know, that's why I do these videos, to help you guys out. So hopefully you guys don't. I wouldn't call it a mistake, but just make yours look a little nicer than mine, I guess. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together, and hopefully everything feeds nicely and works well. Okay, you guys, let's go ahead and put some shots over the chronograph. I went ahead and loaded up the darts they sent with the blaster, just to give us kind of an idea of what that's improved to. We do have K26 in here right now. This is cut down slightly from what I had in here before, so we'll see if that lowers FPS at all. And that we haven't done anything with the barrel. This is still the stock barrel, but I'm sure you could put any sort of barrel in here you want. Just remember, those grub screws are going to kind of screw into your barrel and scratch it. Although, side note, the one issue I've had with this blaster while testing is this spring here has really scratched my barrel because of the way it was manufactured. It actually got caught in here, and I couldn't even prime it. Had nothing to do with the mod we did. So just keep that in mind if you have any issues priming your blaster. It could have to do with this spring. And obviously we could just remove that spring completely. It isn't necessary for the function of the blaster. It just kind of helps you load quicker. So, and it's supposed to keep the breech forward also, but with that added O-ring, it probably isn't as necessary. And also, we do have 100% seal now. For some reason, I think I didn't have quite enough lube when I tested on earlier on these O-rings, and once they kind of got more lubricated again, it seemed to be better. So should be 100%. I'd say that's pretty close to 100%. But let's go ahead and shoot some of their darts over the chronograph, and then we'll put some Worker Gen 3s over. 200. 200. 200. Wow, that's consistent. 201. 201. 204. 202. 202. 201. 201. And we're out. All right, so very consistent right at 200. I think that's pretty impressive. I'm guessing these will shoot a little lower since they're a bit heavier, but we shall see. I think they're a bit heavier. I haven't actually tested that, but pretty sure they are. Those darts also are not nearly as durable, as they seem to lose heads, which makes sense somewhat from shooting into a wall, but these don't usually do that. So put a few Worker Gen 3s over. 195, 206, 204, 200, 211, a little more inconsistent for some reason, 202, 200, 197, 204, 201, 203, 197, 201, 205. So actually a little more inconsistent, but you know, not too much different than the other darts, honestly. So maybe at a higher FPS, they're a little more, this dart is a little bit better than at the lower FPS, or with the, I guess it's probably more the seal that had something to do with that, being more inconsistent or lower FPS before. But yeah, that's pretty darn good. Obviously, if you need it below 200, you may need to drop down to a K25 spring or the Silver Fox 25. But yeah, this thing probably compatible with lots of different springs. I just wanted to test those two. I think that 10 kg spring, I didn't test that, but I feel like it would have had to been cut down to work in this blaster, so I didn't want to deal with that. And these two spring combos, I think, are really good for what I need. 200 FPS is kind of what I'm shooting for with this blaster, because that's what I usually play at. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the mod guide. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, peace out.